Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's bring in a RISE analyst, Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Hey, morning, Charles. Everyone is back today.
Yes, good morning.
How are you, Yolanda, Adesua?
Well. Good to see you.
We're doing all right.
Good morning. And then we have to discuss the papers with us this morning, Dr. Austin Maho. He is a lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism in Abuja. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. 2025 budget. National Assembly proposes 25 trillion revenue target for FIRS. Jacks up NPA 2025 revenue target to 1.75 trillion naira. Already the Federal Inland Revenue Service was reported to have surpassed its revenue ceiling last year. From a goal of 19.4 trillion, it generated 21.6 trillion. So following this fantastic performance, if we may say, the National Assembly Joint Committee on Finance raised the bar. The committee has promised to support FIRS to pull in more taxable Nigerians from the informal sector. The committee also went as far as saying that this new intent not only is achievable, but surpassable. I mean, from all indications, the tax man is coming for us all. Dr. Maho, everyone has to sort of tie their belts. This is also as NMPCL remitted 10 trillion to the Federation account as at September 2024. You have to ask, what's all this money, or where is all this money going to?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. Where is all the money going into? Aren't we as citizens feeling that we are being overtaxed? And the tax burden, from all indication, is not receding anytime soon. So we are overtaxed, and the government seems to believe that the only way to generate more revenue for the Federation account is through overtaxation. And we have raised this issue over and over again. Nigeria doesn't have a revenue problem. We have an expenditure problem. Expenditure problem in the sense that when the revenue comes in, what do you do with it? That is why we have been advocating that government should play its own part. When you get this revenue, apply it diligently to be able to reach, to be able to have impact on the lives of Nigeria. And that is why we've always cried about the cost of governance. You have to reduce the cost of governance. You cannot overtax me and expect me to be happy when I find out that you are using this money to buy more SUVs, to engage in what I'll call frivolous overhead in many government establishments. We saw the recent embarrassment coming from JAM during the budget defense, where you appropriate about over $1 billion for lunch. Is it that your staff are starving? So these are the issues. It's not the money, it is what the money is being used for. That is what is aching many Nigerians. That you cannot overtax us, and at the end of the day, this money end up being frivolously spent.
Okay, there's more coming on taxation and government revenue later, but let's look at daily trust first of all. We're struggling to survive, according to fallen heroes' wives. Yesterday was Armed Forces Remembrance Day. It was a day to honor those who have paid the ultimate price to serve and protect our country. But what is coming out from this is that families of some of those fallen heroes are left to fend for themselves, and it's challenging. And on this day, many of them are calling for more government help. There's no easy way to talk about this. Some of the stories are simply heartbreaking. Charles, they should not be struggling to feed themselves or to put food on the table.
I feel the best way to honor the fallen heroes is to take care of the families they left behind. I mean, holding the ceremony in remembrance of them is good, but it's much better if the people they left behind after paying the ultimate price are well taken care of. I mean, so many things appear to be wrong in the background with our armed forces. Was it not yesterday we saw the story about how some members of the Nigerian army were unjustly dismissed? Actually, they had been sentenced to death before, Why? Because they said, look, we can't fight a superiorly armed enemy with inferior weapons. Give us better arms. That's all they demanded for. And then, they were court-martialed, dismissed, and now they're not being paid their, severance allowances after they had technically been reinstated. And now, widows of fallen heroes are crying out that they are being neglected. So, is it to disincentivize service to the nation, which is probably the highest form of service any Nigerian citizen can offer, putting your life on the line for the nation, and then when you're no more, then it's heartbreaking that their families are left to their own devices. It's just not fair.
Yes, I also want to say, because I was sitting into the Committee of Defense budget defense meetings this week, and the Minister of Defense, Matawale,
he was asking for more money, right?
Yes, he asked for, everybody's asking for more money, but specifically, he asked for 20 billion naira to pay for the families of the deceased, that their allowances, that they have not budgeted for that. And he also said that there are barracks under his budget that have received 0 naira as allocation for 2025.
Well, a lot going on there. We also have The Guardian. Let's look at The Guardian this morning. Economists, shippers express worry over customs 12 trillion revenue target, another target. These businessmen are not in support of this target by the National Assembly due to the fact that it will affect local businesses, consumers, and international trade. It could stifle economic activity, drive importers out of business, and worsen hyperinflation, according to them. Furthermore, it will raise import costs and compound the struggles of businesses already burdened by high operational expenses and an unstable economy. I mean, there's so much to say about this war. Real businesses in this country are actually facing all sorts of taxes, fees, harassments in the name of increasing government revenue. And what they're also saying is that the National Assembly members that are making these targets are not the ones on the ground, and so do not really see the impact or how difficult it is to run a business in Nigeria.
Definitely. I mean, our legislators are not businessmen at the end of the day, and the bureaucracy and the red tape is what stifles business growth. And so when we talk about our taxes and the levies that we have to pay, we have to understand that all these taxes and all these fees are they're taxes in and of themselves. Any sticker you have to buy, any license you have to get, that is a tax to the government. And these revenue targets, again, it is to what end? Because if we're increasing revenue, but we have not changed we're not fiscally responsible, we're not putting that money towards actually driving growth, then we're severely handicapping ourselves. And this is a country where inflation is increasing again, food inflation is increasing again, and we're reliant on importation.
Well, more on tax. There's more. Let's also stay on The Guardian. 30 December, $500 tourism tax proposal. Exploitative, says NIDCOM. The Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, is up in arms against Chief Dokun Olomofi for suggesting a $500 tourism tax for Nigerians in the diaspora returning home during the festive 30 December period. It's being viewed as ill-advised and counterproductive. They point to the fact that diaspora remittances was the highest in 2024, and that Lagos State hotels raked in over 50 billion naira in December 2024. So why tax Nigerians that are coming home? Dr. Maho, one can understand the need to generate revenue, but this direct tax here, I mean, how can you justify it?
It's ridiculous for anybody should have come with that kind of proposal. Absolutely ridiculous, and you wonder whether the person who is coming with that proposal, gave it a thought. What are you telling me that as a diasporan, when I'm coming back to my country, I have to pay? You may as well seize my passport. You may as well tell me to drop my passport and go back to wherever I'm coming from. And there's no doubt, happily, NIDCOM has come against that proposal. And that proposal, I would say, should be dead on arrival. Whoever, came up with that proposal, whether it's an individual or a group of people, they should apologize for ever thinking about that. Are you not thinking about the impact these diasporans, when they come into the country, the impact they are having on the country, and you now feel that the only way, to pay them back is to tax them for coming into their own country? to come and enjoy the festive season, to come and spend their money in their own country. Not that they are visitors, visitors to you may call them visitors to their country, but for God's sake, they are authentic citizens of Nigeria. Saying that they should pay for entering their country in the name of dirty December is a very dirty idea and should be jettisoned.
It's from you.
Well, I was going to say that this proposal was written by Nuisance Online, and I don't understand actually why NIDCOM even replied.
I actually think that people would pay this money, sincerely speaking. That's why someone is able to say something as ridiculous as that, because Nigerians have a way of just going with the flow. When things are hard, they pay what needs to be paid, they do what needs to be done, even though it is wrong. I agree, it is totally ridiculous, but I'm pretty sure, as Adesua said, this is totally a nuisance.
I actually thought it was a joke. I mean, I would have considered it a joke.
It was a joke. Somebody decided to print
a gag.
To print a letter with their own
But
headline.
that's how
seriously.
jokes start in Nigeria and they become a reality.
That's right.
Isn't it?
But actually, Nigerians in diaspora did not find that funny at all.
Okay, let's look at other headlines as well. New Telegraph, Sharia court, how DSS intervention averted religious crisis in Oyo State, according to sources. Festivities push Nigeria's inflation to 34.8%. We also have the Punch, 34.8% inflation rate triggers fears of rising prices and hardship. Tinubu governors salute fallen heroes, pledge support for widows. We also have another story here. Retired generals, others worry over fresh terror attacks in Northeast. We have Delhi Independent. Customers of 9 banks may not get alert, others from January 27. And then Tinubu OK's recruitment of 5,000 personnel for NCOS. Nigerian equity investors suffer 2.09 trillion loss in 4 days. And then to the international headlines, Daily Graphic, elect MMDCEs on partisan lines. Also on the top front page there, we have new security boss's name. So it's been nominations, appointments of new public officials in Ghana since the swearing in of the president. Then Citizen newspaper, My Child's Ghost School. Parents of Cliptown Primary School at El Dorado in Soweto are upset that months after education officials promised to fix the collapse in school, they are yet to see any improvement. They say for a year and 3 months, the classrooms have been unfit for learning and that the education department is playing with their children's lives. They're not taking it lightly at all. Then let's go to the Times. Except, Yolanda, do you have any thought on that story before we go to the Times?
I just think this is the height of corruption. How can you have schools that don't exist and then you go ahead to make parents make payment for school fees when you know that the school doesn't exist? It's crazy.
And education is so important. We hear about
absolutely,
children leaving school in South Africa or not finishing. So for them, for those parents, it's very important that this problem is solved. The Times this morning, ceasefire joy on both sides. Qatar and U.S. broker deal to end 15 months of war in Gaza. That was a big story last night.
Finally, yes.
All the papers were covering it.
Yes,
Hamas to release hostages in exchange of prisoners. We see the photos of extremely elated people on both sides in Gaza and Israel. They could not contain their joy. It's just the beginning though, Dr. Maho. This ceasefire deal is in 3 phases, and the hope is that it will hold. It's still fragile at the moment.
Well, what do I say? The fear of January 20th, when Donald Trump comes into power, is the beginning of wisdom. Donald Trump made a direct threat to Hamas that if the ceasefire deal doesn't happen by the time he resumed office on January 20, all hell will be let loose. He said it was a direct threat to Hamas. And I think they are heeding to that threat by ensuring that whatever deal has been packaged has been brokered by Qatar is adhered to. So it's a good one. We want peace in the Middle East. We want peace in the world. And however it is achieved is appreciated. And we hope that all parties to the deal, starting with the initial 6 weeks period before it breaks down into the other 2 going into the future with the release of about 35 Israeli hostages and the release of some Palestinian hostages also, that is adhered to by both parties. And it's a welcome development. Right. And I hope that peace and the two-state solution to the Middle East crisis will eventually be achieved.
Yeah, go ahead on this one.
I was just going to say that this reminds me a little bit of when Republicans tried to delay the release of U.S. hostages to sabotage Carter's re-election a couple of decades ago, when we talk about Trump and Hamas and this deal, because they are crediting Trump and his team. But again, we have said that these negotiations have been going on for, I think, 15 to 18 months now.
And you know, President Biden said it's the exact same deal he proposed in May.
Exactly. And so you would have to wonder what changed, you know? And it's not, so the threat of Trump, is it the threat of Trump, or is it that Israel is going to get some wins out of this? Because if it's a deal that Hamas has agreed to for months, then why does Israel suddenly agree
Well,
now?
so many factors. You know, everyone is getting weary. You know, the Hamas reportedly is degraded, you know, and then you have Hezbollah, the same thing. You have Assad has fallen because of this crisis. Israel is fighting on so many fronts. You know, it's impossible or difficult to fight on all these fronts for a very long time. So at the end of the day, something has to give. Anyway, let's move on to the Washington Post. Biden warns of the rise of new American oligarchy in farewell address. President Biden compared today's tech moguls to 19th century robber barons. You can't beat that, but he has a point. He warned that he warned that the growing power of the ultra wealthy threatens the foundations of U.S. democracy. I mean, this is serious. Yolanda, if you want to chip in here, it's serious talk right here.
Yes.
America is changing, and people are worried about the future of democracy in that country.
Very true. And things truly are changing. I remember, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, we were speaking about Elon Musk. Yes. And how, Charles was laughing, and how, you know, his influence because of the type of money that he has, and even trying to influence other governments as well, not just in the US. So I think this is a very timely message, a very powerful one. I listened to the speech when it was given, and I kept nodding and giving my of agreement. Yes.
Definitely. Elon Musk has threatened to primary out Republican senators who don't back Trump picks, that he would sponsor somebody to challenge them in a Republican primary. So that's very scary if people think...
He threatened to remove the British Prime Minister.
Also. And he's also being investigated by some EU countries for you know, meddling in their own election. So the superpower of the tech giants, I think this is the beginning.
Right. Dr. Maho, you know, the President Biden talked about the outsized influence of the military-industrial complex. He also talked about the receding power of the press, lack of freedom, and the necessity to remove dark money from American politics.
Yeah, dark money, power of the press. You know, this when we talk about these tech giants, who are we really talking about? Elon Musk has very strong influence in the media with X, formerly Twitter. Jeff Bezos, the owner of, I think, Amazon, is equally the owner of Washington Post.
Yes.
Then you talk
Jeff
Bezos.
Bezos.
He's equally the owner of Washington Post. Then you now look at Mark Zuckerberg. Who owns, of course, Facebook and WhatsApp and the others. Yeah. So when you look at these tech giants who have been going to Trump Mansion as Malago to pay homage and obeisance to Donald Trump, you can look at the future and say, look, the tech giants who control the media, who control thoughts, who control what the world sees, they are taking over the world.
Yes.
So what Biden said is absolutely in order.
Right.
There's,
well, it's an interesting conversation, but we're out of time. Well, you know, in intellectual parlance, they will say what is happening is platformization of the media. You know, those people, they're just platformizing the press. Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Maho. for joining us this morning. Very interesting conversation today.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Constance Ikoku, for joining us this morning. Hopefully, Elon Musk doesn't also take over space. That's all the time we have for you here on Daybreak. That's all the time we have for you today. I am Adeso Agiwa-Osage.
I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.